All right, guys, welcome back into another live stream video. Going live for NFL DFS Week 2 here. It was a pretty good Week 1 for us. No complaints here for me. What about you, Hazy? How'd you do?
Yeah, I think I won a huge $8 in that $1 million or that million player prize $1 million contest there. They had the $5 one, so I'm riding high. But Bills also got the victory in week 1, so can't complain.
Yeah, it was a lot of good information. It was just more or less putting it all together. And really, if you had just faded the afternoon guys and just played like morning guys with our picks, it would have been a hugely profitable week. And just because of that, I have entered a lot more lineups in the early slate than I typically would, just because I don't want that like disparity. I know Austin Eckler, big letdown. MT obviously got injured as well, so I don't know. It's a pretty good week information wise. We'll see if we can parlay that into another good week here.
Yeah, and to be fair, I probably would have won a little bit more than $8 because I had DK Metcalf in my lineup, but someone convinced me that Allen Robinson was a better play against the Lions. So
Didn't
I
A-Rob,
think I would have won maybe $10 instead of 8.
A-Rob got like 12, right? Didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he was half decent, but again, he's getting thrown a ball from a bum. So
So, like, honest, there's a lot of players that we touched on value-wise. Quintus Cephas last week, who's getting a lot of hype this week now. It's like, oh, he had 10 targets. He hit value last week. He was, what, like 3.3, I think, last week. Had, like, 7.8, which he hit value. That wasn't great, but still 10 targets was awesome. James Robinson, everyone's on now, who is a great pivot from Antonio Gibson. So, I'm pretty excited for this week. And then Logan Thomas getting a shit ton of hype. I'm like, yes.
former Bill.
Is he? Former Bill, former Lions, right?
I think he was on the Cardinals.
He was a quarterback for the Cardinals.
Yeah, he was quarterback at Virginia Tech when he got drafted. Yeah, so
Yeah, he's
he's
gonna be
been
a good.
around.
He's gonna be a good play this week as well. So, we'll get it started here. We'll start off with the first game, Detroit versus Green Bay, and this was a game that we absolutely nailed last week as well. We got Rodgers, Stafford as the two quarterbacks who I like perfectly fine. Both those guys. Rodgers is 6.9. I think his career average, I guess the Lions the last 4 years, if I remember correctly, is like 20.1 DK points per game, somewhere around there. It's over 20. And then Stafford just, he didn't look great last week, obviously without Kenny Galladay, but still he put up 17 DK points. His price stayed exactly the same. The Green Bay Packers defense looked phenomenal. They let up two big plays to Adam Thielen, so I don't know what we can do with that. I think Marvin Jones could catch a couple of deep balls. Do you have any preference as to one of these quarterbacks?
I guess maybe, but it depends. Like Aaron Rodgers could just go off in the first half and get you a shit ton of points, right? But for the long haul of the game, maybe Matthew Stafford, just because I think that the Lions are going to be trailing.
Mm-hmm.
But then you look at, like, okay, yeah, Matthew Stafford's probably going to have 4 quarters to put up some points, but Lions are like absolutely dead. Jeff Okuda is the only guy that's playing this week, and you got
Is he active?
Lazard, you got Aaron Jones that can catch the ball in the backfield. You have Devontae Adams. Like, there's so many weapons there that it's like I don't see how Aaron Rodgers doesn't put up a lot of points either. So I don't think you can go wrong with either one, to be honest with you.
So just real quick, I'm going to put up a quick live stack for this one just because there's a bunch of ways you can do it. I'll start off with Stafford here because you could fit Adams in there. You could fit Marvin Jones, who could go off. You could fit Cephas in there, who I still think is a great value this week. And then you could maybe put Lazard or MVS in there, and you're set up pretty well with the sneaky stack there for this game. So I really don't mind it. It's not one I'm going to go out of my way to get, but I think it is a top 4 game that we can stack here. So pretty decent stack overall, but we'll move on into the next game here, which is San Francisco versus the Jets. So it's an interesting one because everyone's going to be talking about Jordan Reed now, and I think it's warranted, but with George Kittle out, everyone's talking about Jordan Reed, and he is kind of the default go-to value play this week, but I wouldn't be surprised if Ross Dwelly gets a little bit more involved as well. He was a decent, sneaky fantasy option last year when Kittle was a little bit banged up. So I do like going to Reed as the default pick, but there are going to be some other tight ends that we touch on a little bit later on that I think are just as safe as well, and maybe a little bit more upside. It's tough to pass up on him at that price point. He should get at least 50% of the snaps. Heck, I could see them doing a 2 tight end set to kind of offset their receiver woes right now, injury-wise. But then on the other side of the ball, we have Jamison Crowder out as well, who brings up my favorite value play, Rashard Perryman. So in the last 2 games, we touched on like 2 difficult parts of this slate. We got Rashard Perryman, great value play, and we got Quintus Cephas, pretty solid value play as well, both priced at under 4K. And then you have Jordan Reed in this game as well. Pretty much this slate is coming down to, do I want to pay down for value at receiver, running back, or tight end? And there's not going to be a rhyme or reason as to which way you go. It might just be getting lucky one way or the other. I know I touched on a lot of value plays and stuff here. Do you have any take on kind of what you're looking at for this game?
Well, Miami got a huge win against Louisville yesterday, 47-34, and they're going to go up in the rankings. And Adam Gase, was stubborn in Miami, and he's stubborn with the Jets. He loves using 11 personnel. And I think Christopher Herndon can have a huge game at tight end this week. We saw he was targeted a few times last week in Buffalo, and I think he's a big body weapon that Sam Darnold can, kind of a safety blanket with a guy like Jameson Crowder out of the game. You really don't have Brashard Perriman, that is that weapon on the outside. So who else are you going to throw to the ball? Le'Veon Bell's out, hamstring, injury reserve. You can't get him out of the backfield. So I think Christopher Herndon can have a sneaky good game as well, just because Adam Gase, should be moving away from 11 personnel, to have more success. But I don't think he's going to. He's going to be using a lot of 2 tight ends. So I think Herndon can have a good game.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I will say the Jets defense is priced at 200 or 2K min salary on DraftKings, so I do think that's kind of appealing as well in a game where George Kittle's out. So I'm kind of defaulting to the Rams as my primary defense, but the Jets at 2K again this week seems very appealing to me. So that's pretty much it. Herndon, Perriman, Reed, and probably Jets D.
Just quickly, I'm so surprised Jordan Reed is still playing NFL football. Honestly, man.
How is he on? Like, honestly,
he literally. We're not talking about Pop Warner, middle school, high school, university. Like, the guy must have at least like 10 NFL concussions at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and it's like, man, just
you worry about him.
God that when he's older, he's still has all his marbles.
Yeah. So got Jerry in here saying go Vikes. I realized today when I was or this week when I was talking a lot of shit about the Vikings secondary, not shit, just it's more or less just stating the facts.
Yeah, for sure. No.
I realized that a lot of 9 to 5 Nation for NFL DFS is from Minnesota. At least like 3 guys came and said they're from Minnesota. So I'm like, you guys get it at least. But hey, like I always say, like target what you know. Like for years, I was targeting the Green Bay Packers secondary as like if Adam Thielen was going against them, I was targeting him. If Kenny Galladay was going against them, I was targeting him, whatnot. That's kind of how the Vikings are this year. So
they're just young, man. That's it. They're good, but they're going to be good in a couple of years. But there's a lot of young guys back there.
They are. And, we'll just get into that game since I brought it up. Are they on the night slate? They are. So Indy versus Minnesota. We'll get into that game since I brought it up. So T.Y. Hilton, I like a ton. T.Y. Hilton at 5.7. He is the best receiver in that game. I know Paris Campbell, a lot of people are talking up. Like, he did well. A lot of it was just Rivers checking him down to like underneath route to Campbell. I didn't think he looked impressive on film, but fantasy-wise, I still think it could be there. But the Vikings got beat by speed last week, and I really love T.Y. Hilton at 5.7. And then another sneaky tight end on this slate, Mo Alley-Cox, because Jack Doyle's out. Jack Doyle had 7.9 DK points, which if Mo Alley-Cox gets that at 3K, he's going to be set up pretty well. We know Phillip Rivers likes to target the tight end a decent amount. And then I really, really like Jonathan Taylor on this slate. I know a lot of people do as well. I think he was by far the best running back in the draft. I really don't get why teams passed up on him. And you saw him be very productive last week, and he kind of looked explosive last week as well. And then just real quick, Phillip Rivers for me, I think he's going to be a safe play going against that Vikings defense. Yes, he is turnover prone, but that doesn't really kill you too much in DraftKings. What are your thoughts on this game? Because I really think we can stack this game.
Well, I saw this tweet that, the Vikings were like a consensus public play and, should you fade the public? And I don't really understand it considering they're like +3 this week. But the only thing I'm going to say, and I could be totally wrong, Aaron Rodgers' velocity has, I don't think, declined at all in his career. And, it's a lot harder to be a cornerback when Aaron Rodgers is just zipping it in there or being a safety. Whereas maybe this week the cornerbacks and safeties maybe will play a little bit better because we know Phillip Rivers can't do that anymore. And especially playing in Jacksonville, like if that heat wasn't going to help him throw the ball a little bit more downfield or really zip it in there, then I don't know how much playing at home indoors will. That's the only thing I'll say about that. Maybe that has no effect on how bad the secondary is in Minnesota, but that's just the thing that came to my mind. But yeah, Jonathan Taylor is just an absolute, like the guy looked like an NFL running back just body wise in college. and it looks like he hasn't missed a beat. And unfortunately for Marlon Mack with that torn Achilles, obviously that Naheem Hines maybe will continue to get some touches, because I was surprised that he got so many last week, to be honest with you. But I think that because of Philip Rivers' performance last week, that Frank Reich will want to start running the ball more, maybe more ball control, and really takes the ball a little bit out of Philip Rivers' hands, to be honest with you.
So my problem with this game is pretty much I've been struggling. Do I want to go with like Jonathan Taylor and then a tight end, or do I want to go with Philip Rivers and T.Y. Hilton? So you're kind of swaying me to go maybe Jonathan Taylor and a tight end there. Do the safer route. Obviously, the tight end would be a little bit more on some blocking plays, but that opens up a little bit more opportunity for them to be used in the passing game as well. So I kind of like that approach. Oh, I just noticed on the live stream I mixed up our names here. Let's get that adjusted. You were Hazy today for a little bit. I was I was Hazy today for a little bit. You were Eric, so congrats on that, dude. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Moving up.
Yeah. Yeah, this game's interesting though. I really do think you can stack it. I'm just going to do a stack here real quick on the live stream as well for these guys, because I know what you said about Philip Rivers. You did see on some of the T.Y. Hilton passes that if he had the velocity that he used to have on his passes, he would have got them to him. They were just a little bit late, and they almost got picked off. Heck, a couple of them did get picked off. So I do.
And Jacksonville probably has a worse defense than Minnesota, so
if not equally as bad. I mean,
yeah.
But you could. I'm doing one. I got Rivers, JT, Hilton, Thielen, and then you could go Mo Alley Cox. I mean, this is like you're really trying to stack this game then, because I do think it's going to be high scoring. But you could even put Cook in there, and you're set up pretty well. Like this is.
I think Dalvin Cook is going to have a massive game today.
He is super sneaky. He is like so. Derrick Henry and Zeke are going to be chalk for good reasons. But Dalvin Cook at that price point, yes, he didn't get that many touches, but he still had 21 DK points. And the Colts really did get gouged by Jacksonville and James Robinson. I know I talked up James Robinson as like a sneaky good running back, but they're making him look like he was like a first day, second day running back, and he was an undrafted free agent. Dalvin Cook is one of the best running backs in the league, and he should absolutely be able to just gouge this team. So I definitely agree with that approach. I think it's a very, very sneaky play.
And I'm going to look quickly because I think that I want to say the Vikings had like an absurdly low time of possession last week.
That's a good point. Yeah, so we're touched on this game a lot
they had
because
18 minutes and 44 seconds of. I think that was like the lowest in. This might have been the lowest in NFL history or something like that. Honestly, I saw some tweet about that. That's why it made me think to go look this right now. Yeah, 18 minutes of ball possession. You think Mike Zimmer's not going to run the ball a million times this week?
Yeah.
100%.
He definitely could. And they were behind early, so that does make sense. But this is a game where, like we already touched on, it shouldn't be. So we'll segue into the next game here. We'll go back to, what's it?
Thanks. Giants, Bears.
Giants, Bears. So another NFC North Bears, and then we got the Giants. The Giants looked decent last week. I really don't have a strong feeling on this game, except for the fact that Allen Robinson, probably another safe play again. Maybe he scores a touchdown here. I do not mind Trubisky as like the pay down lowest price quarterback that I feel safe with that's going to hit value. I think that'd be the route I would go with if you're trying to pay down at quarterback. And then, that's pretty much it. Ingram could go off. Shepard looked decent. I don't mind Anthony Miller. Like, you could do a sneaky stack with this game, but I don't have any feelings for it. What about you?
Yeah, I think that they're going to – I don't think force Allen Robinson the ball, because I think Allen Robinson's a better wide receiver than OBJ. I don't care if that's a hot take or whatever the case may be. I just think he is. And I think even management understands the frustration that Allen Robinson has contract-wise, and maybe just because they know what he's dealing with on a week-to-week basis with Trubisky. But I think they're really going to try and get him the ball, especially because he didn't get a touchdown last week.
Mm-hmm.
I expect him to have a good week. That's like the only guy I'll play from this lineup, because the Giants secondary is just horrendous.
Yeah, well, why not Anthony Miller then? You could do like a sneaky stack with Trubisky and Robinson and Miller, because Miller does look good. They just, how much you want to trust Trubisky, I guess, is the question there.
Yeah.
So I don't mind that. I agree. So we'll move on to the next.
Defensive line's not too bad on the Giants. You know what I mean? Like, you still got Leonard Williams, the former 6th overall or 5th overall pick that went to the Jets. So they're not half bad on the D line. It's just everywhere else they're just atrocious. So maybe Trubisky will try and start throwing it early on.
Yeah, I will say, like, if I was sometimes later on in the year when the games get to like 9 games on a slate, I'll like try to do a stack of each game at least. So if I was trying to do that for this game, I would throw Evan Ingram in there just because like Noah Fant dominated them, and I don't mind Noah Fant, but like Evan Ingram's a much better tight end than that. So that'd be a route I would go if you're trying to do that option. So my favorite defensive play is the next game. We got the LA Rams, and so I hate when I do this because a lot of the times when I'm like just so zoned in on defense, they either dominate or they get like 2 points. And I'm like, why did I do that to myself? But like they are the play this week because Washington's defense really just dominated them. And I don't think Washington's defense is all that great. They might be a lot better than they have been in years past, but the Rams really looked good last week. I mean, defensively, what they gave up 70 points to the Dallas Cowboys, who everyone thinks the Dallas Cowboys have one of, if not the best offense this year. So it's going to be tough for me to pass up the Rams defensively. And then I'll let you, I want to see who your favorite plays are on the Rams here, and then we'll go.
Yeah, the only thing about last week was with no Miles Sanders, right? Miles Sanders is back this week, so maybe that just makes the Eagles' offense run a little bit smoother, and maybe they put away that game last week if Miles Sanders is there. But ever since winning the Super Bowl, that secondary, I know they've had a lot of injuries, the Eagles, but hasn't been the greatest. And if Dwayne Haskins leads the Washington to 27 straight points, like Jared Goff obviously is not the greatest, but I think he's better than Dwayne Haskins. I think Robert Woods could have a big week this week. Cooper Kupp could have a big week this week. Tyler Higbee, if you look at it, okay, last week he didn't have a great fantasy-wise, but the last, I think, 6 or 7 weeks of the NFL season, he had every game over 100 yards and at least a touchdown. So I think he could be a good play this week as well. Like, this is a game that you could stack if you really want to because, I think you could literally go Goff, Higbee, and then one of Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods, and then, sprinkle in like a Darnell Henderson or Malcolm Brown or whatever the case may be, and I think you'll have a decent week.
So would you run it back with anyone there on the Philadelphia side of the ball?
Maybe Miles Sanders, because I think he does everything. He's unbelievable at everything, right? I mean, he's literally Saquon Barkley 2.0. Obviously not as good, but like at Penn State, they did the same things. They're both great pass catchers out of the backfield, and they're both great runners. Obviously, Saquon Barkley obviously is better than Miles Sanders, but like you can see the same type of game in them. So I think that the Eagles will try and utilize them as much as possible this week.
Yeah, I agree there. So I'm pulling up Gerald Everett here to see if he's going to play. It seems like he is on track to play, which does suck. Who knows how much he is going to actually play in the game. He did have that injury, but I was looking at like Tyler Higbee and Woods to be lost for me if he was going to be out, because you saw when Everett was banged up last year that Woods and Higbee were just studs. I do really like those plays. I don't really have to touch on anything more. Woods, Higbee, great plays. Some of the running backs could be sneaky as well, like you touched on. So I like that.
Well, you look at Higbee too. He had 3 catches, 4 targets, 3 catches for 40 yards. Like one of those could have easily been a touchdown, and then that's still 10 points, right? Like you're at 10 points for a guy that's 4,700. Like that's not bad,
dude. And he actually like looks just good eye wise as well. Like, just on the field, like
yeah.
What was it? Logan Thomas scored a touchdown last week on these guys. So we like Logan Thomas. I already touched on that, but like Higbee should be able to dominate here if that's the way they want to attack him. That's the big thing. Moving on to the next game here, we got about 20 more minutes here, so going decently fast, but could go a little bit faster here. Get your questions, guys, in as well. I know we got a question about Dan Arnold. I'll answer that once we get to the Cardinals game. So moving on, we got Jacksonville versus Tennessee. So I think pretty much this is the signing point. I already touched on it. So running back value, receiver value, or tight end value. What is the route you're going to go? Because you could fit Derrick Henry, and then you could fit James Robinson. Yes, they're in the same game. That's not as great, but James Robinson, priced at 4.4 still, is pretty cheap. He looked very good. Heck, he jumped over someone and got like 5 extra yards last week. It was a very impressive film that I saw from him. Like, he looked better than he did in D2 football or D1 double.
So you said
football.
Running back value, tight end value, or wide receiver value in this game?
Well, just no, in general. So like,
yeah,
we're either going to go with James Robinson in the flex this week, or we're going to pay up for pretty much Jonathan Taylor, or you're going to pay down at receiver value, go with like Perriman, Corey Davis, who is also in this game, and then maybe Quintus Cephas or Adam Humphries, who is also in this game as well. So,
man, I know Corey Davis, former 5th overall pick, but he seemed pretty good last week. Like, maybe Denver's defense wasn't the greatest last week, but it seems that they're going to utilize them in the offense this year a little bit more. And I think AJ Brown is out this game. Is that right?
That's correct. Yep. And that's why
Yeah.
Humphreys at 3.4 is a great play. But go on. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I agree. Because yeah, Humphreys is literally like a poor man's Cole Beasley. You saw last week against Denver, like 3rd and 4. Just he's the guy they go to just to get those quick receptions. Let me look quickly because yeah, he had 7 targets last week. Like I know he only had 6 catches for 47 yards, but like he's getting the ball thrown to him 7 times. And now with AJ Brown out, you could totally see like a 10 target game from him.
Well, and it just goes back to like how good of a play Quintus Cephas was last week. Is like at this price point, and especially with Adam Humphries, he will catch a few passes here and there. Like last week, I was talking him up as like a captain's pick because he was priced at like 2.2 on for like the captain spot on Monday, and I'm like, he is going to absolutely hit value last week, and I think he's absolutely going to hit value today as well, just at that price point. Like if you want to just pay down and go with Humphries as your like default receiver value, I like that, but this game might just be the deciding point of kind of the whole slate because one more time, just recapping it, Derrick Henry, pretty much a lock, I think, but you got James Robinson. Are you going to play him or are you going to pay up for someone like Jonathan Taylor? Are you going to play Corey Davis or are you going to play Adam Humphries? Or are you going to go a whole different route with Perryman? And then we already touched on like the tight end values. This game obviously doesn't have too much to offer for tight ends, but
Yep.
it's really the make or break point of the whole slate, I think. And if you get it right, you're going to be sitting pretty.
Yep. What Tennessee's tight ends, they seem to use him a little bit. Michael Pruitt especially too. I think he had a touchdown last week. Or was it the other guy?
No, it was Pruitt, but they tend
Yeah.
to. I think I forget the snaps here, but I think they all kind of spread it out, especially with Eifert
Yeah.
there as well. So I don't know. I was really impressed by Chenault last week film
Yeah, that
wise,
was yeah.
and like DJ Chark is. I think he honestly is like a top 15 receiver in the league. So I think he's
And
also talented.
they used to know too, like not only in the passing game, but like a lot of jet sweeps as well. So I mean, he's going to get the touches, not just by getting it thrown to him. You know what I mean? So that's obviously a positive.
Oh yeah, and he looked better than Antonio Gibson, who we'll touch on a little bit later on as a running back. Gibson didn't look bad, but Chenault looked really comfortable playing running back last week. So that's a game that we really like. Don't really have to hit on that one that much, but Carolina versus Tampa Bay. So people are really, really talking this game up. And here's another default value play. Scotty Miller priced at 4.1. He's going to be used as kind of Tom Brady's check down guy. He had 6 targets last week for 5 catches. That led to almost 13 DK points. With Chris Godwin out, Scotty Miller should be used a decent amount as well. But a lot of people are talking up Ronald Jones this week. And I've always been a Ronald Jones truther. I've watched the film on him. I'm like, he's not as bad as people are making him out to be. But I think Leonard Fournette's going to get a little bit more involved this week as well. Like, they brought him in for a reason. And I still think Jones is slightly better, but the fact that Fournette could eat into his carries this week worries me. And yes, the matchup's fine, but you could really attack the Panthers, I think, any way you want to this week. And I think it's a little bit too risky for me to be on Ronald Jones at this price point, especially with the quality of running backs that are priced around him this week. Do you have a certain feeling with this game?
It just feels like any mistake Ronald Jones makes, it's like, let's say it's a fumble or maybe a missed blitz pickup assignment or whatever, like because there's so many options in the backfield that, he's not going to see many snaps, or if he just not running it great at the beginning, he's not going to see as many snaps as he would like. So yeah, I could totally see how I don't really like Ronald Jones as a play this week. I love Christian McCaffrey. If you could fit him in, because man, he's just unbelievable. Like, again, I told you this. I might have said it last week on our thing about how I had the first overall pick in my fantasy draft and how I didn't want to draft McCaffrey, or look, not that I didn't want to have the first pick because how often does a guy duplicate his career year? But man, he has not missed a beat.
Mm-hmm. You didn't want to have to draft him.
I didn't want to have to draft him because there's obviously no one else you can take, but it's just like, unbelievable.
I get that a ton in fantasy football. It's like, you have to take this guy. Although I settled on OBJ in like the mid-third round this week or this year in drafts just because I was like, I don't want to, but he's falling a little bit too much. So I get that completely. And yeah, honestly, like, I do this with golf a lot as well. It's like, if you guys can afford to pay up for the top guys like John Rahm this week or, whatnot, that's the same thing with football. If you can afford to pay up for like the number 1 running back like CMC, who was consistent as him, you should always do that. And you could easily do that by throwing in Humphreys, by throwing in Jordan Reed. And then you're set up super well. You could throw in Henry and CMC, and those two values I already mentioned, and those two values might get 10 to 20 DK points, but Derrick Henry and CMC are going to get 40 to 60 points combined, and you're set up pretty well there. So I like that a lot. I don't have that much of CMC this week though, just because I really like a couple of other running backs here, and I don't like to over splurge at the running back spot, if you will. A guy at the same price point as Ronald Jones. We're talking about the next game here. Melvin Gordon with the Denver Broncos with Phillip Lindsay out, and it might be the homer in me, but like Melvin Gordon gets trashed for being a complete running back, and like people never get why he plays. I'm like, he's pretty elite. Like he still is top 12 according to me, just because he's a complete back. I don't know if you saw. I think it was Noah Fant's touchdown. Melvin Gordon had a block that he had to make. He dives at the guy's legs, takes him out, and Broncos are set for a touchdown. And then he got better as the game went on. Had 18 total opportunities with Phillip Lindsay out. Those opportunities should be a little bit more this week as well. So I don't mind him at that price point. I know a lot of people are talking about Pittsburgh's defense, but we talked about this on the betting podcast. I think the Giants play calling, they really just were not trying to set up the run game at all. So I don't mind Melvin Gordon at that price point. I think he's a great pivot from Ronald Jones, who is seemingly going to be chalky. Are there any other plays here? I know Courtland Sutton, is he still questionable? I think he's going to suit up, but any feelings for you?
Yeah, it's questionable, but I think he was really close to playing. I think he's going to play. I think it's just questionable, but he's going to play. The defense looked phenomenal. Like, you can't take anything away from the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I agree with you. Like that, and it's a whole new offensive line. They got that rookie left tackle in there, Andrew Thomas from Georgia for the Giants. So, I mean, there's a lot of moving parts there that weren't conducive to success on the running game. But Melvin Gordon is going to catch a lot of balls out of the backfield this week, I would assume, and obviously Saquon Barkley could do the same thing. But I think Denver will be a little bit better running the ball. That you're going to be able to use him more in the passing game, like. If you're running it like he did 15 carries for 6 yards, I mean, he's going to be pretty neutralized in the passing game as well. But we did see that one screen they threw to Saquon. He ran it for 55 yards or whatever the case was. So obviously Melvin Gordon can do the same type of things, and I think the Denver Broncos offense is way better than the Giants. But we did see Daniel Jones do that play action again. I think it was Slayton who caught that deep ball too for the touchdown. So they were up 10-3. So it shows that there were some opportunities to take some shots down the field. So, this is a sneaky play as well, where there's probably going to be a lot of low ownership with these guys. Like, I think Jerry Jeudy could have a big game here.
Yeah, so, I don't mind Sutton, and I don't mind Jerry Jeudy as, sneaky plays here. Like, you could I don't know how.
Jerry Jeudy had the ball 8 targets, man, and,
but that's because Sutton was out,
his footwork. Like, his footwork is unbelievable. Like, how do you even cover the guy?
Yeah, well, so, with Sutton out last week, I don't know. I think that helped Jeudy a little bit more because he was kind of an unknown. The defense didn't know if they had to shut him down, but now with Sutton there, it could help him, free him up, because that was kind of the Steelers' problem last week with the Giants, is that they kind of just were making mistakes in defensive coverage, and that could lead to a touchdown from Sutton or Jeudy there. So that's a decent sneaky stack game there. So we'll move on to the next one here. We got about 10 more minutes here, guys, so get those questions in and we'll get those answered. We got Atl Verse Dallas here. So I like Zeke a ton. I think you should just pay up for him if you can. 8.2 is a crazy low price point for a guy that's going to get 20 touchdowns or touches and could score
probably 20 touchdowns too.
Probably 20 touchdowns too, given the matchup. But I don't really have a strong feeling for the rest of this game, just because I think it's going to be such a guessing game. Like, Julio Jones could go off, Ridley maybe, Cooper probably could go off, Gallup, Gage, Lamb. We don't really know. I think CeeDee Lamb at his price point is intriguing just because the tight end got injured. But Hayden Hurst on the other side of the ball, decent. I think if you want to go with Matt Ryan, he kind of always seems to get there value-wise quarterback spot. But I don't have any other feelings for this game other than the running back spot. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. I think you could probably put Gurley and Elliott in your build and be content with that. You're probably going to get a guaranteed 40 DK points from the both of them combined.
Yeah, with a floor of 30. Yeah, I would agree with that for sure. So we'll move on to the next game here. We already touched on the Minnesota Indy game, so we're moving on to the Buffalo Bills versus Miami Dolphins. So first and foremost, let's just say it. Josh Allen looked like an MVP candidate without his 3 horrible plays in there. Other than that, he was an absolute stud. But hey,
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes, they've had plenty of horrible plays the last 2 years, and they both won the MVP. So honestly, if their schedule's decent going forward, if he puts up another massive game against the Dolphins, that chatter's going to slowly start, and he should be able to dominate.
Matt Milano out this week, Tremaine Edmonds out this week, 2 of their star linebackers. This is going to be a week where Brian Daboll has got to be like, hey guys, we're going to score 35 this week, and we're going to give you the week off. Like, you can give up 28, 27, whatever. We're going to get it done. And I could totally see it this game because, I think Buffalo has a way more dynamic offense than New England does, and New England put up 21 points. So I think I'm like my build's going to have Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs in it guaranteed.
So I know I touched on Dawson Knox a little bit last week. What do you feel about him? Because he should have had a touchdown. Josh Allen missed him on like a wide open touchdown.
Yeah, I agree. It's just
for stacking purposes.
Yeah. I just think that John Brown and Stephon Diggs and Cole Beasley just won't. The Dolphins don't have enough guys to cover all of them, and I think that they're really going to utilize them because Dawson Knox still hasn't proven himself, man. Like last year, he had a lot of easy drops. He made some unbelievable catches, but the easy ones, sometimes you just can't trust the guy. And I think until he proves that he can be trusted, I wouldn't put him in my lineup.
Yeah, I got you. So I got the stack going with Josh Allen. I put Diggs in there. I put John Brown in there both. I will say, if you want to run it back, I think Jakeem Grant is going to be a sneaky play. We touched on it last week. The reason why we like Jamison Crowder a ton was because they don't really go out of their way to cover like the team's number one. So Jamison Crowder was the team's number one. He was in the slot. And I think that if there was a weakness on the Bills' defense, it would be covering the slot. Jakeem Grant is a quick, speedy guy. He should be playing a decent amount of snaps at the slot. The only way I'd play him is if I'm trying to stack this game because you kind of always want to try to run it back, and that'd be the sneaky stack I'd go with. I also think Bills D is pretty top-notch here if you can afford to pay up for them. Don't go out your way to do it, but I like that quite a bit. So decent stacking options there. We'll wrap it up here pretty quickly. So Washington versus Arizona here. I really like Kyler Murray. I think he's a safe cash play. I don't really get the price point there, and you could easily fit DeAndre Hopkins in there. I think we're locking in like at least 40 DK points there with upwards of like 60, to be honest with you. I think that's way too high of a ceiling, but Logan Thomas here I do like as well to run it back with. So like Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, Logan Thomas, run it back with. I'm perfectly fine with that. We did get a question about Dan Arnold. No, just don't play him this week with all the great value that's out there in tight end. That's a little bit too risky for me. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I think that DeAndre Hopkins can have a huge game this week. I think the front seven of Washington is really, really good. So Kenyon Drake, if he didn't have that touchdown against the 49ers last week, he wouldn't have had the greatest of weeks. So I would go more so DeAndre Hopkins this week than anything else. So I agree with you there.
And Chase Edmonds looked good last week too. So
yep. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was worried about Drake. I loved him in Miami. I thought he was going to break out eventually, but Chase Edmonds is still pretty talented.
Yep. No, I was just going to say, because there's a couple games left here, the Baltimore-Houston. J.K. Dobbins only had 7 carries, but he did get 2 touchdowns. I don't know, does his role increase this week? Because I think he could have a big game against Houston. But it's just there's so many weapons back there. Like you know what I mean? He could totally just not get those carries and those touchdowns, and then you look like an idiot.
So, no, I don't want to go with J.K. Dobbins. Once again, there's a ton of better just running back value, more known factors there this week, and that's kind of what I like to go with is just the known factors. And Mark Ingram, yes, he didn't put out the best fantasy output, but he didn't look bad. He still looked like Mark Ingram of the past, and last year he was top 10 running back, so that game kind of seems like a stay away to me. I don't really have a good feeling for it. To be honest with you.
I agree.
But the last game that we'll touch on is going to be KC versus the Chargers. I actually really like this game a decent amount. You got Austin Eckler. He got priced down because he wasn't used in the passing game. But you could say that, hey, Chiefs are going to be up a ton. They're going to have to get Austin Eckler involved in the passing game. So at that price point, I don't mind him for a guy that's still, what do you have?
I looked it up because, like, after I told you, man, like, Eckler did have more carries than Kelly. So I think that it was just one of those. It was, I don't know, maybe it was Tyrod Taylor because we saw what the Browns did to the Bengals, and it was
Yeah.
kind of embarrassing that the Chargers could only do whatever. But maybe just stay away from the Chargers offense, because if they couldn't put up points against the Bengals, then it's gonna be a long year for them.
Yeah, but I feel like Eckler did get 20 opportunities last week, and that'd be kind of my go-to play if I had to. I will say Keenan Allen, I don't trust him this week. Tight end, I don't trust, but Eckler would be the only play. Would you go with CEH at all? Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he did look good last week.
Yeah,
but
man. I mean, the Chiefs had all offseason to get a game plan going for Week 1, and they did use them a lot. So I would expect that to continue. To be honest with you.
yeah, I agree there. So I know you got to leave in a couple minutes here, so we'll answer a couple questions here, and I can stay on if anyone has a couple more questions. But for the Sunday night game here now, Newton or Russell Wilson? I'm going to go with Russell Wilson. He's just elite, obviously. Newton, he looked fine. He looked good. But and then Big Ben or Watson this week? Watson for me. What about you?
Yeah, I agree.
It's
And
just
I think
he
it's
has
just
a
a better
floor.
quarterback.
He has a floor, and yeah, better quarterback. So we got a question. Who would you punt at tight end with Mo Alley Cox? Or would you punt at tight end with Mo Alley Cox? So that's a big question this week. I already touched on it a little bit. You got Jordan Reed on there. You got Mo Alley Cox, and you got Logan Thomas, all priced within 1,000 of each other. I think Cox would probably be the safest, to be honest with you.
Thomas was good last week though. He had 8 targets. Like it's not like he had 2 catches for 30 yards, and you know what I mean. Like he had 8 targets, which is pretty good.
Well, I mean, I talked about it last week. It's like he is their number one passing target. We saw that throughout the training camp with the beat writers a ton. That's what they were saying the whole time. It's like, okay, how true is this going to be or not? But given the price point last week, it was like you couldn't pass him up, and he's still at a decent price point for a guy that should get around 6 targets. And if they get into the red zone, he's probably going to be the guy getting those as well. Yeah, it's not great, but I think if I had the salary too, I would rather go with Logan Thomas, but I'm kind of mixing and matching with Mo Alley and Jordan Reed. But I think Ross Dwelly could be sneaky as well for, like, Jordan Reed's going to be really chalky. So I don't
What do
mind
you think
it.
about Sammy Watkins this week?
Sammy Watkins, no. It's so tough. So the only time I like to play players like Sammy Watkins is in a game stack. So if you're game stacking that game, sure. But I hate to do like the one-off play of a guy that's, is going to have 7 to maybe 10 huge games. And we just can't really predict that with Sammy Watkins.
Yeah, because he had 9 targets last week he had 7 catches, 82 yards, and a touchdown. Like, you'd rather play Quintez Cephas over Sammy Watkins?
Are they the same price point on there?
No, Cephas 3,800 and Sammy Watkins is 4,800.
Oh yeah,
Because Cephas did have 10 targets last week, right? So it's like
I'd much rather play like Perriman, who's the receiver number 1 in that offense. He should get the targets. And I'd rather play Cephas, who could take advantage of a decent matchup as well. Who, like you said, had 10 targets. I think his like expected point total versus what his actual point total was like 15 DK points. So I don't mind him at that price point. It's pretty cheap.
I think I'm gonna have to go with Anthony Miller as my last guy here.
So, yeah, Anthony Miller. He's at the price point. I've ended up there a lot, where it's like, whatever. Did you go with Trubisky in there? Is that why you did that?
No, I got Allen and Diggs, but then I was looking because I got Cephas in there, and I'm looking for a wide receiver. But at that price point, 5,200, I have 5,500. Like I could get Sterling Shepard, Lazard. But I think Anthony Miller just has a better matchup.
He does. Is that for flex or just receiver?
Just receiver.
Yeah, I think I would go with him. If you could get up to like T.Y. Hilton, I would much rather do that. If you could go down at defensively or maybe quarterback, I'd much rather do that. But yeah, I think Miller should just be safe, and he has the upside to score a touchdown.
Yep.
But like the problem with this week, it's like Miller is the same play as Corey Davis, as Adam Humphries, as Cephas, as Perryman. It's like, sure, he's a little bit better given the matchup, but like it could go anywhere. It's tough. So do you got to get out of here? I'm going to finish up with the build.
Oh no, I got like 4 or 5 minutes if it's yeah.
So I'm going to do a build here real quick, and then we'll answer the last question. So this is going to be a GPP build here real quick. So I do really like Josh Allen. I don't think I'm going to end up on him in cash, but I think he's super safe against the Miami Dolphins, so I want to go with that. And then Derrick Henry, Zeke, paying up for the studs here. And like I said, this is the make or break point this week. I do really like Robert Woods. I think he's going to be safe. I don't know if I want to include him in the build or not, though. I do really like T.Y. Hilton, 9 targets last week. Easy matchup. He should be able to exploit that matchup pretty well. And then I'm going to default to Adam Humphries instead of like Corey Davis or Cephas or Perryman for now. I don't know if we have to do that route, but like I said, super safe. And then who should we go with? Should we go with Logan Thomas? Should we go with Mo Alley Cox? Or should we go with Jordan Reed?
I think Logan Thomas is the play this week.
All right. So we're going to have to pay down probably for the Jets defensively then, which is fine. But
yeah, I think the Jets. Yeah,
they're safe.
I don't. Yeah.
They shouldn't go negative. That's the thing. All right. So Jonathan Taylor or James Robinson, who should we go with at running back in the flex?
I think Jonathan Taylor.
I agree. He's priced down.
I think James Robinson has a tougher matchup this week.
Yeah. See, my thing with James Robinson, he's going to hit value. It's just, I don't know if he can explode. So then we have 6.8 left over for a receiver here. So should we go with, we got to go with Diggs then, given the matchup, because we got Josh Allen as our quarterback. But you could go Robert Woods. I like him a ton this week as well. So decent GPP build here for you. So Josh Allen, Henry, Zeke, Hilton, Humphries, Diggs, Thomas, JT, and Jets D. Pretty solid stack right there. And then,
no complaints from here.
Yeah. Obviously, the build's going to be a little bit different for cash, but I don't mind that. So real quick, going to wrap up here with the question. A-Rod or Matt Ryan? I'm going with Rodgers for sure. More upside there for me. I
think the Cowboys have a better defense than the Lions as well.
It's weird. Like, if it was like Matt Ryan's safe. Every week he like sucks for a little bit and then he just gets there. Stack with Adams. Yeah, I'd rather stack it with Adams. I think that's a lot safer. I will say it has a little bit more upside as well. Adams and Rodgers could repeat what they did last week given the matchup. I worry about, Matt Ryan and Julio Jones just because that could become a rushing fest there. The carries could be there for both running backs there and they could just chew the clock. That's my biggest worry there. Great question, though. You're talking about Julio Jones and Devontae Adams there. Huge upside. Billy is in the house. What's up? That's funny. But yeah, I think that's all we got. Do you have any closing thoughts here?
One of us is going to bank $1 million this week. Not this week, this year. Hopefully one of us or someone listening is going to bank $1 million. That's my prediction.
So honestly, my goal has always been I want someone from 9 to 5 to just hit huge. I know last week on the Super Bowl Showdown slate, someone was in 5th place and something happened where they fell down to 15th at the end of the game. And I was like, that sucks. But I want that to happen, whether it's 100K, 10K. I want someone to take down a GPP pretty quickly. And it's been 2 months since then. I know someone took down a PGA Showdown slate 2 months ago. So hopefully that happens soon. If we had the preseason, it probably would have already happened, to be honest with you. But whatever. I wonder if that's Mike Gonzalez, the one I know. Just throwing it out there. It might be. I'm pretty sure it is. I can't tell by the profile picture. He's in there asking questions. But if it is, what's up, man? Hope everything's well. If it's not, either way, I still hope everything's going well for this. All right. So we are out, guys. Thanks for joining the live stream. Had a little bit more views going this week, and we're just going to continue to do that. We're going to continue to keep cashing, as always. Hazy, how's your U.S. Open looking, though, real quick? Because mine's set up pretty well.
Yeah, I just need I'm not going to win in my lineup because Tiger and Fitzpatrick missed a cut, but sneaky play Lucas Herbert there because of the Dubai Desert Classic. I had him less than 1% owned. He made the cut, which was nice. Finau and Rom, hopefully they play decent in the final round. I don't know. Maybe I barely make the money, but
if they get to top 5, you could easily could.
If you just built 100 lineups for this U.S. Open, for 100 lineups around the BMW Championship, mixing in a couple of guys, you would 100% win $1 million. I'm not for sure. Because Matsuyama's up there. Rom, Finau, DJ's even 6 over. He shoots 300 today. He's top 10.
If Wolf loses, for sure.
Yeah, right. So it's you would have a great week if you just literally did the BMW Championship.
Yeah. This Sunday is crazy because I'm really looking forward to week 2 for NFL, but it's you got the U.S. Open on, got some good lineups going because I put in 100 lineups kind of shaped around that. So I have some decent ones going. I know I told you off air I had 5 top 10s going already in a lineup and then one with Thomas Dietrich, who they could push for a win. So very interesting week on the DFS side. Really excited for it. If you guys want to join 9 to 5 Nation, we got the PGA and NFL DFS memberships there on the website. Link is in the description below. Keep betting the house with beating the house with Hazy.
Beating. Not just betting and losing, beating the house.
Beating the house. That's what the NFL betting video is for. One good week already, and we're going to have a good week already. We had 2 lock bets in there after our 2 lock bets won last week. So get in there and win with